Good morning. Welcome to the Daily Drop-In Morning Show with the Teach Better team, where we are live every single morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern. But you already know that. We've been live every day since August 1st, and now it is January 20th. We're so excited to celebrate this Thursday with you. As a reminder, if you are enjoying our feed, if you are listening, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to share what you're watching, or also you can always tag us and let us know by actively commenting as well, especially if we are currently live. We're having some issues with Twitter again. That's kind of been happening all week. So make sure that if you are watching us on Twitter that you share this feed so people can catch it, because we are struggling to share this currently on the Teach Better team's Twitter. Who knows why, but we're just going to persevere. Carly Spina is in the house, and we are going to have so many good discussions around how to include our students in the design process, all the holidays for today, a good news article, and then there'll be some fun shenanigans. So we'll be right back. Please go fill up your coffee, and let's get started. Hey friends, good morning. Carly Spina, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited. How are you, Ray?
Doing well. No, it's going to be an awesome conversation, but I'm so excited that you're here. I know you've been on Daily Drop-In a few times, and when I saw your name on the schedule, I was like, oh, good. We're having an OG join us. We'll be able to have some great conversation, and I know that you have a lot to share on the theme this week, so I really appreciate you waking up bright and early.
Yes, I'm so excited. And such a good topic and like a great time of year to have this conversation. So I am so pumped to jump in.
Oh, it'll be so great. Before we get into too much educational talk, let's start simple. People are rolling out of bed, getting ready in the morning. Maybe they've set their phone up and they're just listening as they're getting dressed, getting the kids up. Or if this is like your time, we'd love to hear from you. Maybe you're watching on your computer while sipping your coffee. Carly, tell us a little bit about who you are. Maybe this is someone's first time connecting with you.
Sure. So my name is Carly Spina. I am a huge lover and passion person for serving multilingual learners. So I was an EL or English learner teacher for 5 years. I was a third grade bilingual classroom teacher in a transitional program for several years. I was a district multilingual instructional coach for a bit of time. And now I'm currently serving as an education specialist with the Illinois Resource Center. So we are a nonprofit here in Illinois, and we provide professional learning opportunities for everyone inside of a school system on serving multilingual learners, families, programming, and communities. So that's a little bit about me, and super, super pumped to chat today.
Carly, I always love when we are able to get somebody that comes onto the show that does specific work in their community, like specifically the nonprofit that you are working with really does focus on Illinois work. But if you're listening and you are not in Illinois, I think there's so much value in hearing that these nonprofits exist, even if it's outside of communities that you currently live in, because that really is a reminder to go and find the equivalent in your state. You and I are both a part of a very active people involved in nonprofits that are state specific, but there typically is a national connection. And that means that there typically are other state specific organizations or community specific organizations that serve in the same purpose. And I always believed that our communities didn't utilize our nonprofits and the power that they have in our communities. So I know that you are very much based in Illinois, and you and I are able to collaborate in so many different ways because of the nonprofits we're a part of. But I just want to give the reminder that there are these massive national, organizations that are typically parent companies or state equivalents, depending on what the crew is, that we could all go hunt down right in our communities.
Totally. And I think it's so important. Like you said, it's an underutilized thing. Like I would encourage everyone today, like just go on Google and start searching, like where you want support or want to get connected. Go on Google and then follow them on social media. Like make sure all your feed, like your Twitter feed, your Facebook feed, follow them on all the platforms because it's a great way to learn about learning opportunities or networking opportunities. And a lot of these agencies like mine, like we go outside of Illinois, pretty frequently. So it's just cool. So like for me, I'm an Illinois girl, but I follow a whole bunch of state specific organizations in other states because, they post a lot of great resources and have different events. And, sometimes it's not state specific. Like I can kind of sneak into an Ohio event.
No, and that's so true. I think it's so comical how many organizations exist to support our schools. And sometimes our schools are so unaware that these organizations exist. I mean, even just the research, I know you and I did an event together in December. And for that event, we were actually searching for community specific nonprofits. So truly like within a very small radius who exists out there. And at that event, we were chatting. There was over 7 or 8 different nonprofits that existed that just supported the small niche of educators that we were currently serving at that event. And I think it's so interesting to think about that there are 7 or 8 nonprofits that serve a very niche community. And most of those organizations didn't even know about each other, right? That communication piece. So I love the shout out to go follow them on social media. Simply do a quick Google search. Ask people if they're aware of any organizations. They don't just serve, specific things, but truly there are so many that serve schools, which I think is so cool.
Yes. And we got to tap into those. We got to get connected. Like the better connected we are, the better we could serve. So absolutely.
Yes. I do want to give a shout out those in the comments. Good to see you this morning. Thanks for chatting with us live as we are starting our Thursday morning off. We got Jeff, Elijah, Brad. It's so good to see all of you. Feel free to continue to comment. We love having this be an active learning experience. If you're catching this after the fact, you can even choose to participate by taking the conversation virtually online, whatever space you feel most comfortable in. Carly and I are all over on social media, and obviously so is the Teach Better team. So feel free to be an active learner, not just a consumer this morning as we get started. Carly, I would love to hear a little bit, I know you've probably shared this before, but about your passion in the space that you work in. Obviously, you work with English language learners. You've taken your career to really dedicate your time to serving such a beautiful community, but not every educator knows every component of that, group. So tell me a little bit about what drove you to be part of that.
So I grew up in the city in Chicago. And so I grew up in a monolingual home. So in my home, we only spoke English. But the neighborhood had so much linguistic richness. Like you could walk down the street and hear 4 different languages in 4 different houses, or people would drive by in the summer and have their systems up and you'd hear music from all over the world. And so that's one thing that just kind of opened my eyes, like, wow, like I have a lot to learn. We are monolingual. We have a lot to learn. And then, as I got older, I was able to start taking, just like language courses in high school and college. And so I was privileged. Like I learned an additional language out of privilege, not out of necessity, not out of survival or having to navigate something or a new place. And so when I was able to, learn and like try to grow in my proficiency in an additional language, it really opened my eyes to, just being a more empathetic language producer, language expressor. And then, again, like my social group all spoke a whole bunch of languages. And then when I went into my elementary education courses, they were like, well, you've got to keep going. You've got to get that, on your endorsement, that you speak another language. That's a great thing. And so, yeah, when I had the chance to get into some student teaching opportunities, like I was like, I really want to go into EL education. So
Do you mind if I pick your brain a little on learning another language? Because I know that so many of our communities speak multiple languages. I love the diversity within our community. We need to continue to grow in our network's diversity and bringing in so many different voices and cultures that really makes us such a well-rounded family here on the Teach Better team. But Carly, I have tried to learn other languages, and I feel like there's this, standard of, this phrase that people are either good at learning languages or bad at learning languages. Tell me a little bit about where you fall on that, and then what it was like learning another language and then becoming so passionate about it.
So I'm so glad you asked that question, because people will still to me say, like, especially like in January and February, people's New Year's resolutions is to try something new or pick up a new skill. So a lot of people will say like, oh, I really want to learn a new language this year, or like start exploring another language this year. And that's a great thing, because we really do. We want to elevate all language usage, right? Everywhere we go. If we're in the workplace, right? We work in schools or the grocery store or our house of faith or wherever we are, right? So, there's almost this similar idea of people who serve in math classes, and like we're trying to dismantle this idea of like, oh, I'm just not a math person. Like every person is a math person, and the same goes with language. Like everyone's a language person, but there's a lot of different factors out there that can influence or impact or affect language acquisition. And so like whether you're an adult or whether you are a student in school, anytime that we are stressed, we call it like the affective filter. Stephen Krashen's one of the researchers who came up with this idea. If our stress levels are high, we have this like invisible wall that goes up, 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 up. And no input can pass through that invisible wall or that filter. So if we bring down the stress levels, and again, maybe it's like working, asynchronously at home on an app with, language tools. If we're feeling a little less stressed, more input can pass, more learning can stick, more connections we can make to the language. And then like authentic practice, like authentic moments where we can practice. That's another thing that, if we don't have exposure to that or don't have the opportunity for that, it's possible our learning won't stick. So we want to apply the learning.
Yeah. I've never heard that explained that way. That makes so much sense to me. And really I'm thinking through like how then you learn being so affected by that stress level. I mean, I've sat in years and years and years learning a specific language growing up, and I didn't remember a lick of it. I mean, truly, I was useless, right? But then I lived in that community for about 6 months, and I felt so confident speaking the language because I was in a different environment. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yes. And so like this idea of like being immersed, right? Being immersed in a language that totally can influence and impact how we acquire an additional language. What's cool about students in the US, and particularly in the Chicagoland area, is like sometimes there's this phrase of like a linguistic island or a language island. And some people are like, oh, but then that impacts how students can learn English because they're only speaking English at school, and then they leave the school and they speak their heritage language in their home, and again at the supermarket and the bank and the post office, because everyone in that community speaks that language. And that's something we want to hold on to. Like we want to hold tight to those language islands, and when we want to expand those islands, because that's so great. Because when our students are acquiring English during school and they're immersed in English at school, we want them to maintain their heritage language. So the more experiences we can create for them, so that they can have, language practice and, opportunities at their level, and then also at the next level up, like that's just going to help them grow. If I'm strong in one language, chances are I'm going to have an easier connection to the additional language. So I'm elevating all of my languages at the same time. It's really cool.
I've never thought of that. I love that emphasis that you were able to provide on finding that balance, because in my experience, which I understand is limited one perspective, learning another language when you're immersed in it, when you had no opportunity to speak English, so therefore you really were forced to learn another language. I remember it being exhausting.
Yes.
Like I could not believe how exhausted I was at the end of every single day because I had no opportunity to speak English, and you were just constantly striving to consume and learn.
Yes, it truly is exhausting. And like when we have students who come from other places in the world and like their first few months, especially in an English speaking school, it is so overwhelming. You are so overstimulated. It's so common and it's unfortunate. Like our kids have headaches by midday and it follows them the rest of the day, or they just need that stimulation break. Like I've had many students who just needed to take a nap.
Yeah.
Like they're still children, you know what I mean? Like, so we really had to nurture that, the mental health and the mental stimulation. And another thing, when we talk about language, we talk about like language through the four domains, like reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And so sometimes we get this like misconception that listening in an additional language or listening in any language is a passive skill. It is not. It is not a passive skill at all. It's a receptive language piece, right? It's interpretive. So it's coming in, but once it's in, you're doing something with it. Maybe you're translating it in your head, or maybe you are processing the information, or you're trying to gather tools to give a response, maybe spoken or written response, or you're going to do some type of action with whatever you just, received. So it's exhausting for kids and for adults.
That is such a cool reminder to reflect on. I know I'm having my own moment, and everybody, like truly, I love talking about this topic because I don't have the background knowledge. So I always love learning about languages. But you're right, because I remember sitting at dinner with this beautiful family I was living with, and dinner being some of the hardest time of the day because there was so much love and so much laughter and so much beauty happening around the table as we were eating dinner. But all I was doing was listening, translating. I wasn't even necessarily communicating all the time my own opinions, but it wasn't a relaxing experience because you were trying to listen and consume so much. And you're right, translate in your head of understanding the dialogue. It was definitely not a relaxing time.
Yes, exactly. And then it's so funny because like you're using your ears to listen, but you're also using your eyes like crazy, right? Like you are watching every facial expression. You are watching, your eyes are glued to every gesture they make with their hands. And it's funny because I can't stop talking with my hands ever. But you are constantly looking around at other people's facial expressions too. Like how are they reading what they just said? Does that align up with I thought they just said out loud? So it is super, super overstimulating.
Oh my gosh. I love this conversation. I want to take it further in our theme this week because I know that we were talking before we came live that the theme this week is about involving your students in the process. And I really do love being able to share a multitude of perspectives on how we can involve our students in the design of things that we make decisions on all day as teachers. So I really appreciate that you're able to bring this perspective and lens. It's so fun to be able to reflect on different experiences that we've all had with language, but then also making that strong connection between our day-to-day lives where we may not be immersed in a unfamiliar language and how we can be better for our students. So before we get into that, Curly, I would love to be able to highlight some good news and some holidays, and then I want to continue this conversation. Does that sound good?
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right, let's go celebrate. We'll be right back. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Daily Drop-In. It is Thursday, January 20th, and we are so excited to celebrate with some holidays and some good news stories. Carly, I always love being live with you because I learn every single time we speak. I love your energy, and your passion is in a space that I know I need to grow in as an educator. So truly, I'm constantly learning. But it always just feels like I'm chatting and catching up with like one of my best friends. So I'm so excited you're here with us. And I know this about you. You are always somebody eager to celebrate.
Yes, I am always down to celebrate, always down to party.
So good. So it's interesting. There's a lot of holidays today. And as a listener of all of our community here this morning, our holidays are to lend a little giggle, right, in everybody's lives. But also these are really cool experiences to incorporate day to day and fostering conversation, fostering relationships with not only our colleagues, but also our students. So as we kind of joked that yesterday was National Popcorn Day, there's a lot of good holidays today that I think we can celebrate. I think everybody listening is going to be able to pick one out and say, ooh, this is going to be the one that's going to really land with a funny conversation with a colleague or a specific student that I'm trying to foster a relationship with.
I love it. I love it. I heard the popcorn one yesterday and she was so excited because popcorn was her favorite food. So she was like, I know what I'm doing today.
She was such a fun guest. Alexia, I think, is like, I want to be her when I grow up.
I do too. Her energy is just like, she's just so full of passion. I'm like, I want to capture that.
And honestly, I know we're off topic, but wasn't it such a great reminder that even through hardship, these young millennial educators that see a light at the end of the tunnel still exist? Like, wasn't that such a great a reminder? For me, it really was such a great reminder that passion still is there.
Yes, it was really refreshing. I like, and again, like everyone's feeling kind of doom and gloom, and it is January and all that, but she just lit up the whole time, and it made me feel like, oh yeah, like I need to bring that too.
And Carly, not to call us out, but you and I are quite positive, high energy educators. Like, I think that's why we love chatting so much, is even on a bad day, you're bringing your love and passion at the forefront of the conversation. I actually was loving it because I think she beat my energy level, and I don't always like interact with people that are more positive and passionate. I felt like I was like, oh, she's upstaging me and I'm for it. Like, sign me up.
I know. I was like, oh, I was so excited to hear from her. She's fantastic.
All right, let's get into these holidays. First and foremost, it is National Cheese Lover Day. So I don't know what cheese everybody's consuming, but do you have a favorite cheese item? Maybe, Carly, you need to incorporate in your day today?
I am all for the charcuterie board movement. And I couldn't tell you the name of anything on the board, but I'm just happy to see the board and have it look so cute and like have fun designs. I'll eat it all.
I love it. Always a fan of charcuterie boards with cheese on it, all different colors. I love that. That's so fun. Definitely go do that. Do put that in your day today. That's a good option. It's also National DJ Day, and I know that may not initially feel like that fits in an educator's world, but I am the queen of blasting music as loud as possible to help with transitions and energy in the room. I think this could be a good opportunity for teachers to bust out their DJ skills.
Yes, I'm super excited that it's DJ Day. Playlists. That's a really, really cool thing to do with kids and have them be the DJ. I worked with a teacher last year when I was teaching remotely, and that was one of our classroom jobs, is DJ for the week. And so the kids would say like, all right, I'm going to, find a good jam for other third graders that's appropriate for third grade. And I'm going to play it in the morning to help us have our morning dance party and wake up together. But I was like, that's a great thing that we could do every day. DJ of the day, classroom DJ of the day.
Absolutely. Elijah's in the comments agreeing with us. Truly, like, have students submit their songs. If you need some sort of vetting system to ensure it's appropriate, that's great. Add it to the playlist so you're really modeling the music they want to hear. Carly, during remote learning, we did so much with music that was actually teaching our students how to learn with music. We were working a ton about trying to, design your own playlist. Like, as a student, designing 2 different playlists. We talked about how the brain learns better if it's learning new content with music that doesn't have words, it's more instrumental, versus when you're doing an activity that you're familiar with, bringing in your favorite tunes or new music you haven't learned that has lyrics. I mean, I think teaching our students how to use music, a part of their learning, is so cool.
Oh, it's so cool. And it's so empowering too, because once they kind of realize that, they can kind of crack the code for themselves, and they say like, okay, this type of music or this song inspires me, or this song like really empowers me. Another cool thing about music, we did this years ago. Remember when Moana was super big? So I am like, that's one of my top 5 like Disney movies. I'm obsessed with Moana, but all of the lyrics to those songs are just phenomenal. And we were studying figurative language. And so the kids kept singing Moana songs. I kept singing Moana songs. So we brought in the lyrics and we analyzed the lyrics for figurative language. So it was just like a really nice, we're all singing, we're all having fun, we're all super engaged, but it's a familiar tune. and we're looking at it through a different lens. But the kids were so excited. And then we ended up tweeting it out, and we tagged, back then when he was on Twitter, Lin-Manuel Miranda. He responded, he retweeted us, and the kids were so excited. They're like, Somos viral. We're viral.
That's
It's
so
really cool.
cool. I love those connections. This is the fun part. So happy DJ Day, teachers. This is our day. Let's bring it on. I love this. Some other holidays today. It is National Penguin Day. Gotta love a cute little penguin. It's National Get to Know Your Customers Day, which I thought was interesting for those of you who have side gigs that you might be pursuing. Get to know who is consuming the content that you're pushing out. That's so important. It's International Day of Acceptance. So as we look at the people that we have around us, the people that we don't get to engage with on a daily basis, even so, how can we bring in this concept of acceptance into our lives today as a really intentional moment to celebrate a very important holiday? I thought this was a beautiful reminder in the middle of January.
I love that. I love that. And that's so important. Again, having those conversations with kids, having those conversations with our colleagues and folks on our social media feeds. That's really, really powerful. Not tolerance, but acceptance. Those are such different ideas. I love
important. That. Yes. You know, it's interesting. Thursday, January 20th is National Coffee Break Day. And Tuesday was National Gourmet Coffee Day. So I'm feeling a theme at the end of January. Maybe we all need to refresh our caffeine intake. But today is, everybody should take a coffee break to be able to celebrate that for sure.
There we go.
I know, Carly, we are both in the Chicagoland area. And obviously we bring in people on the show that are from all over the world, all over the globe. Today is Take a Walk Outside. I do want to give a heads up. If you have snow or icy weather, be careful walking outside, but maybe find some time to do a little stroll in the chilly environment you might be living in. Or for those of you living closer to Dr. Dave Schmittou, I think his definition of cold is like 70 degrees over in Florida. So wherever you are, I think taking a walk outside would be a good opportunity today.
Yes. Even if it's 5 minutes, give yourself that treat. Get that fresh air on your skin. Hopefully you have a little bit of blue sky at some point. But yes, get outside.
So good. You know, Carly, I did want to mention a good news article today that I thought was really fitting for us. I knew that we were going to end up talking about language. I knew that we were going to end up talking about our theme this week, which is involving our students in the learning experience. This is an article about a village in Taiwan. Have you ever been to Taiwan?
No, I've never been.
This would be good for us to visit. This is a language I don't speak. Maybe we could sit around a dinner table with a family and learn, right?
That's right.
I love this. This is a really great opportunity, I believe, to bring into your classroom today because it's a very visual article with beautiful photos. The title is Rainbow Village. An 84-year-old man saves a neighborhood from being destroyed by a bulldozer construction company by painting literally every single street, every single wall, every single house with joyful colors. So it's a very visually appealing neighborhood. 14 years ago in Taiwan, an 84-year-old military veteran painted an entire village to prevent it from being torn down. Now at the age of 98, the painter is still there living in the village, and it's actually become a very famous travel spot. So a series of small homes existed in a government village that's now called Rainbow Village. So that would be very easy to go Google. And it's really all consuming as you walk in because every street, every ounce of this community was painted with very bright, colorful imagery, really revealing like a rainbow effect. The painter actually started originally by doing this to the town and homes to relieve boredom and stress with his environment. And now, years later, he's chosen to fill the streets covered in just beautiful artwork. And this is artwork that is actually really beautiful to be able to bring to students. It's artwork of zigzags and curves. It's not necessarily big mural painting that takes an abundance of skill, but really just celebrating the art behind it. And I just thought this was such a fun opportunity to celebrate art, but also the power of a good doodle, right, with students.
Yes. I love that. And I love that like he was incorporating all these colors. Like I am totally one of those people who I'm like totally influenced by the weather. So if it's like gray outside, I feel gray. But I'm also really influenced by color. So if like the setting feels like, I don't know, dry or cold or just kind of boring, like it influences my mood. But I can just picture myself walking through those streets. Like you can't help but feel a little more energized seeing all these colors, and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel happy. It lifts your spirits a little bit. That's amazing. And just the power of one person doing this, it transformed an entire community. And now it's like this, like a tourist spot, like people are drawn to it. That's incredible.
I love that you just brought in the influence that can happen on us when it comes to color and environment. That is such an important conversation to have with students as frequently as possible, is how important it is for students to choose to put themselves in safe and inspiring environments. So many students that, I was a middle school teacher and I always have been at heart. They choose to live in a dirty environment, or they choose to live in an environment that lacks color. Actually having the conversation around living in a stress-free, color-free environment, or living in an environment that has things around it that can inspire you, whether it be music or art or different influential people. I think that could be such an interesting dialogue. I know I've had numerous conversations around, I enjoy wearing more neutral colors personally on my body, but I love being around environments that are loud and dynamic and full of color. And I think that that's just an awareness that my environment really impacts my mood, and bringing in that awareness to our students and their learning environments, I think could be so powerful.
Yes, absolutely. And again, like it's giving them the tools, just the awareness, and then like they can take action and they can, help themselves cope with things, or they can help themselves get re-energized when they need to. It's such a powerful life skill. And how many of us get to the point where, we're adults and we walk into a space and something feels off, or the vibe changes and we can't quite put our finger on it. But if we were to say, like, think about the lighting in here, or think about the sounds you're hearing, or think about what you're seeing, like, how is any of that influencing how you're feeling right now? Like, we when we were in school, I don't remember having conversations about that.
No, and I think this is great. I would love to transition this conversation to our brainstorm bank, because with our theme this week about involving students in the process, that also includes the physical design of your classroom. For those of you who followed me when I was in the classroom, I had a full wall. It was like 20 feet by 11 feet. That was just a chalk wall. We used to put art all over it. And that wasn't necessarily only because I love to doodle, but because it really can transform the feel, the environment that you're in. And I love the conversation we can have about involving students in creating that environment, creating that color and music that exists. So we'll be right back for Brainstorm Big, because we definitely want to touch on our theme. All right, friends, you know how this works. Our Brainstorm Bank is an intentional moment every single time we host Daily Drop-In to ask you if you need anything. So please feel free to post your comments at any point in our live feed, or direct message me if you have comments at any point that you want us to discuss. We would love to brainstorm with you, even if it has nothing to do with the theme. Carly and I would love to be a brainstorm partner with you at any point in your career if you need a buddy to talk shop with. Carly, obviously this week we're talking about involving students in the design process. There are so many directions we can take this, but I'd love to get your initial thoughts first and begin wherever you are drawn. So when I say involving your students in the design process, what comes to mind?
Well, I'm going to steal a line from Elijah Carbajal, because he always says this. He says, shut up and teach. But I'm going to say, let's talk less and listen more to the kids. There are so many ways for us to kind of just pause. And teachers are so exhausted by the end of the day, because we're making decisions every minute and every hour, right? Like, we don't get time off from making decisions, but how can we turn over some of the decision making to the kids? Two books that I love. Anytime I feel like I'm in a rut a little bit, like with this in particular, these are two good books to reread. One is Learn Like a Pirate by Paul Solars. Really great. He talks a lot about like having students lead different things. And then the other book is Todd Neslony, and it's When Students Lead. Really two great books that kind of just like, it'll give you some ideas, but like, you know, those books that you read and you're like, it's not a prescription book, right? It's just like, it's giving some ideas, but then it's like, it triggers something else in your brain. You're like, oh, I'm going to write that down. That's a really cool thing for me to try. I love those two books. I love hearing the way that they have, you know, given students some decision making. But my brain, when I heard this topic, I immediately went to classroom environment and like just the setting of the space. So Ray, I thought a lot about your chalk wall that you had, and it was huge and it was so cool. I think a lot about lighting and how lighting can influence a mood in a space. There have been moments where, like, if I am working with a team of teachers or I'm delivering a workshop, I will ask participants, is the lighting okay in here? Because depending on where you're sitting in the space, like, you know, if the space is darker up front and there's a screen that's being projected, it might influence even just your ability to see well and see clearly. But I was at a workshop and they're like, can we turn the lights off? Because we have some natural light coming in through the windows. And so we did. And you could audibly hear everybody go, ah. Like just that one question, that one quick like flip of the switch, and it brought a totally different vibe and a totally different mood. And so that was really cool to experience.
I am such a fan of natural light whenever we can have it, but I think it's so powerful that you're bringing in a reminder, regardless of what our classrooms look like, whether we have big, beautiful windows, or maybe you don't have windows at all in your learning space, to be able to control the lighting in any regard is so helpful. I know so many educators that don't have windows are able to bring in lamps and they still have the lights off, but they're able to turn on different lighting avenues within the classroom. Maybe you have a dimmer effect that you're able to utilize in your classroom, but I couldn't agree more. I am such an advocate for the lighting being such a big influence in how our students, even not even when you're learning, but when you enter the classroom, when you enter the learning space, whether you manipulate it later on, it's such a big impact.
Oh, totally, totally. And Elijah is talking about music. Like we talked a little bit about music playing when students enter, like that completely changes the vibe of a space. If it's calm, if it's quieter, you kind of feel a little calm and quieter yourself. But if it's like a dance beat, you're going to walk in kind of strutting a little bit. So maybe we're getting ready to do, you know, like this high energy activity. So even that is just a small, simple thing to change up the space. One thing that I always did when I was with students was I'd ask them questions like, what inspires you? Who inspires you? What is something that, you know, when you see it, your brain's like, yeah, like you get fired up or you feel good about it when you see it. We had this thing we had this space inside of our classroom, and we dubbed it the inspiration wall. And the kids brought in all kinds of different things. And we pinned it to our inspiration wall, and soon it took over. Like it was, we had to move a bunch of other stuff because our inspiration wall kept growing. We had family photos up there. We had some celebrity photos, song lyrics, quotes from the books we were reading, or if we were engaging with like on social media, like NASA had tweeted us once. And so they were like, we have the attention of astronauts, so we need to put that on our inspiration wall because that was a big moment for us. So the kids had full like reign. That was their thing. And then it was cool because as we started to build the inspiration wall, when people walked in, the kids felt so proud of it. Like if we had a visitor come in, they'd be like, we got to show you something. And they'd bring them over and say, here's our inspiration wall. And then the kids also started to create their own inspiration walls at home, and they would bring in photos. And sometimes we had to be really strategic at home because different landlords had different rules about tape on the walls and stuff. So we had to be like really careful. But it was just so cool for them to constantly be thinking about like, this inspires me. This does something to me. This makes me feel good. I want to have that as a visual reminder for myself.
I love the visual reminders. I love the opportunity to connect not only our students' home lives, but also in the classroom, being able to go back and forth. These are such powerful recommendations. And I have to tell you, the environment that you set up in your classroom, the physical environment, can really have a massive influence on allowing students to feel as though they have ownership in that space. And so whether it's lighting or the physical design, I know so many educators that jokingly have like a running news feed in their classroom that every day they begin their day to say, oh, is there any great celebrations or updates that we can write on our news feed? And whether it's birthdays or accomplishments or anything fun, it really has the students being able to see themselves in the classroom, which is so powerful. You could do that with just a whiteboard marker, right? That's such an easy way to make sure that students walk in and are really feeling like they are celebrated and a part of the space that they're involved in. And that is all that goes into involving them in this process.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And when we talk about classroom design too, like, right now we don't really have a lot of control, depending on, where you're teaching. We don't have full control of our space because we have to make sure that we're, adhering to all these guidelines and stuff like that. But I followed Kayla Delzer for years on Instagram and on Twitter. She's fantastic, and she really inspired me to like push myself into thinking about flexible seating, options and arrangements, and just even like ideas. So even if I didn't have the funding to get all the cool chairs and all that, it helped me just open my eyes to the physical space. And one thing I started to do, like I was able to get, like I crowdsourced and I got a few grants for different seating options. But I took it a step further and I started to ask the students, how do you want the space arranged? Do you like this table here, or does it not make sense? Or if you were to design this different, what would you do? And so every time a student had an idea of like, what if we moved this over here and put this here instead? Or what if we got like a small table and did this here? Like the kids started to, again, like become interior designers, and they would submit a plan. They would draw it up. Some of them would write it out and describe it, but they would present it to their peers, not to me. Like, I don't need to be calling all the shots. They would present it to their peers and they would talk through their decisions. Sometimes they would say like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go for it. And then they would move it. Everyone would get it all set according to the plans that were mocked up. And sometimes it would be like, yeah, this was so much better. Thank you. Or it was like, we tried it. It didn't really work out so good. We need to revamp our what the space looks like. But it was so cool because the kids were calling the shots, and it was a nice moment for me to just back up and be like, no, like you guys got it. Give it a try. Let's see how it goes.
So powerful. I really appreciate all these reminders. I think that we're in a space in the year where, in a general sense, so many of us are in a routine. There's a lot of hurdles ahead that are external from our classroom, but we do have control with what we teach, how we teach it, and how the student's voice is involved. And I really appreciate that you're able to give us some ideas that we can go implement later this afternoon or throw on our to-do list for Monday morning and just continue to think through this space. Carly, before we wrap up today, I'd love to kind of have you share maybe your best strategy or best tip that you'd love for our community to consider as they continue to reflect on how they can involve their students in this design, before we head out, and make sure that we also share your contact information next as well. So if you had one takeaway that you wanted to ensure every educator considered as they are tuning into Daily Drop-In, what would that be?
I would say always just be open to feedback from your kids and from the families. Always, always just be open. Just be open. But the second is actually a strategy for instruction, or for assessment, I think. But this is good because it gives students the choice. So the idea is called the blank paper method. And so like, if you know how we always give out like exit tickets or something like that, just to check understanding. I like the idea of moving up your exit ticket just a little bit so that you have time to do something with it and be responsive to the data we get. But like, if it's having students say like, okay, this is, like if maybe I'm answering 3 questions, or maybe I'm doing something on the back, we flip it over, say, okay, students, now tell me something else you learned about the content today that I didn't ask you. You can draw, you can write, you can just put words and phrases, or you can write like sentences and paragraphs, whatever you feel like. You can label a diagram. You can, do express the learning in whatever way you feel. Whatever way will, meet your need. And then, as teachers, we can collect that information. We can, assess the formative assessment. We can check the exit ticket, but then we can also see, okay, maybe if they got number one and number two wrong, but on the back, I have evidence that they mastered number one and number two. They got it. So I love that idea because, again, it's having students kind of own how they express their learning, and sharing whatever else they learned that wasn't on the exit ticket. And it's a really good responsive strategy for students who are acquiring an additional language.
I love that idea. And it's something every single one of us listening can choose to implement if that would serve our students within the next few hours, much even less, later on this week. So Carly, I always appreciate your ideas, your insight. You're always willing to share and brainstorm. Before we conclude today, I do have some Teach Better reminders to our communities. There is a whole lot going on. So I do want to get into that. So Carly, would you mind, before we do that, to just share how people can stay connected to you? I know your social media handle has been on the screen from the beginning. So if you're visually watching, you have access to her handle right now. But would you mind sharing where people can get connected?
Yes, absolutely. So I am super active on Twitter. My handle is at Mrs. Spina's class. So you can always reach me on Twitter, DMs, whatever. Again, I'm always down to chat about this stuff because it makes me so excited. So love having conversations, love Zooming with folks, love having phone calls with folks. So hit me up in any way. And then you can also check out my new book. I released a book with EduMesh Publishing in November. So you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, places like that. And it's called Moving Beyond for Multilingual Learners. So you can always check out that resource. And we some of the things that we talked about today are also in that book, and lots more, lots of other things. So but yeah, always down to chat and connect and learn from everybody and grow from everybody. And yeah.
Oh, so exciting. We have so many things to celebrate. Definitely growing our connections and growing our resources is definitely one of them. For those of you who are very active in our Teach Better community, you probably already know this, but I have a whole lot to just give you. And then, of course, as you continue to explore the numerous things that I'm going to share with you right now, please know teachbetter.com is a great resource for a lot of these pieces, or just direct message somebody on the team. I'd be happy to help if you're looking for more information. Carly, I know you are an active member in our Teach Better community. You might even know the answers as well as they connect with you. So that will be really good. For everybody, if you missed Brain Break yesterday, it was a really, really fun opportunity for people to joke around and take a break from this stressful day that you may have had. So feel free to catch that over. That was streamed on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So you can definitely go grab that on the Teach Better team connections there. Obviously, we'll be live for Daily Drop-In tomorrow with the one and only Brad Hughes. We love ending our week with him. We had a brand new course that launched specifically for administrators and those who are in leadership roles in Teach Better Academy. That was done by the one and only Dr. Dave Schmittou. So definitely go check that course out. It is 100% free and just as a resource. So that's over at teachbetteracademy.com. And actually, Katie Miglin, who is a very, very important member of our team, and I will be live later tonight to talk on that course and really dive into all the different pieces that Dave created in that free course for all of you to enjoy. So join us live tonight. That's at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern, right before you head to bed. We'll be live to discuss that course a little more in depth. Now, that was everything between literally yesterday, today, and Friday. But I will let you know that we kick off the week strong next week. We are going to be very, very close to releasing the full agenda of our 12-hour live professional development that will be happening February 26th. So if that's not on your calendar, February 26th is a big one. And then spoiler alert, Carly, I know that you're excited about this. Starting not next week, but the week after, we are beginning to release the featured speakers and keynotes for the Teach Better Conference. The Teach Better Conference is October 14th and 15th. We are so excited. And really, just as a shout out, we are beginning to release these speakers to not only give you excitement for the event. If you've not taken advantage of early bird registration, feel free to do that. But also to bring awareness to the fact that our proposals are opening March 1st to submit a session. Carly, I can only imagine that you are going to submit a session to present at the conference. And I really want to encourage everybody in our community. You all have a story. You all have a voice. If you've not begun prepping what type of presentation you might want to share in October as we all get together in Akron, Ohio, please get ready on that, because March 1st, we are opening those session proposals and we can't wait to hear all of your stories. So there literally are so many things to get excited about and celebrate over the next few weeks. And we just want to make sure you are aware of them so you can participate in all of the fun. So Carly, I know you'll be celebrating with us, but I really hope that our community continues to connect with you because you have so much to share. And I can't wait to see your proposal for the conference, to be honest. So it's going to be a great next few weeks.
Thanks. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. I got to make sure my calendar is updated with all these exciting events coming up.
So many exciting things. Yes. If any of you need more information or are eager to find out more, obviously there are websites that are connected to so many of these events, but feel free to direct message at any time and ask the questions that you may be having. For those of you who are headed into the classroom today, please have a wonderful Thursday. Carly, thank you so much again for getting up bright and early to celebrate with us. And for everyone else, please enjoy your last few sips of coffee and let's have the best January 20th ever. So thank you so much, friends. We'll see you later.